Good evening, everyone. You're in the right place at the right time. This is Coast to Coast AM, slamming into your radio like a supercharged particle of dark energy, squeezing your brain, messing with your mind, and hopefully keeping you up so late you'll have to call in sick tomorrow to work. Greetings from the boldest, bawdiest, most outrageous city in the world, the epicenter of excess, the planetary capital of fun, sun, sin, sex, and secrets, my not-so-humble hometown, Las Vegas. You've heard the slogan, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's a great ad campaign, except for the fact that it simply is not true. Just ask David Copperfield or OJ or Britney. What happens in Vegas goes everywhere. My name is George Knapp. I'm your host, your trail guide, your designated driver for the next few hours. It's my privilege to pull up a chair and chew the fat on the third Sunday of each month, and here we are. I think we're going to have some fun tonight, talking about conspiracies and cover-ups and UFOs, three of my favorites. Coming up in this hour, pilot and UFO researcher John Lear will check in with a couple of strange stories you probably haven't heard before. John has sort of become the unofficial conspiracy correspondent for me anyway, and he's dug up a couple of doozies for us tonight. And then in hour two, British author Tim Good will join us from London. Tim has written some of the most important and influential books about UFOs and government secrecy in modern history. He's got a new one out that's going to knock your socks off, and I can't wait to get into it with him. For those of you who don't know me, in my day job, I'm an investigative reporter for KLAS-TV here in Las Vegas. I've been covering this amazing city for a long time, basically since the Jurassic period, I think, or at least that's how it feels at times. But, when it comes to radio, I'm still in my rookie season, still kind of stumbling around in the dark, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. This is the fourth time I've sat in this chair in 2007. It's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, I love TV news, and I think I have one of the coolest jobs in journalism. But, radio has some advantages over TV. For one thing, in radio, the broadcasters don't have to wear a coat and tie. And that is a major consideration in my book. And I'm wearing them anyway. I'm wearing a conservative dark blue single-breasted Armani button-down shirt, subdued Jerry Garcia tie. And Ray, the engineer here, will back me up on this, right, Ray? Yeah, he's agreeing. But it occurs to me that I could stroll into the studio wearing buttless leather chaps and a rhinestone tank top or a psychedelic moo-moo, or what I'm actually wearing, which is like shorts and tennies and a baseball hat. But I like the idea of having the option. You can't get away with that on television. As mentioned, I'm still trying to get my bearings in this particular medium. And what amazes me most about the Coast to Coast show is the level of personal investment that the regular listeners have and express. I think my old friend Art Bell created a monster, and George Norrie has been feeding that monster. The listeners really seem to feel they have a stake in the show and are not shy in the least about venting. Here's what's good. Here's what's not good. I like this. I hate that. There's no ambivalence in this audience. I probably shouldn't do it, but I've been sampling public opinion about the show. Each time I've hosted, I get all these emails about various online forums where the listeners chat about the show, the guests, the hosts, the commercials, the songs that are used between breaks, everything. I mean, I had no idea. A couple of times I've clicked on these links to see what people are saying. It's amazing. I mean, it's like a blow-by-blow, play-by-play kind of an accounting, and people are chatting in between, and suddenly some of them will go to bed and sign off, and it's amazing to me. Obviously, I know the Coast to Coast program is popular. I know it has a large audience and solid ratings, but there's something else going on here, some sort of personal involvement that I don't really understand just yet. There are all these websites and chat groups that analyze and dissect every show and everything that's said on every show. A Fantastic Forum and Binal of America and Above Top Secret and Godlike Productions and a lot of other ones. The listeners chime in. It's like play-by-play color commentators. Hey, he really screwed up there, or that was a lame joke, or why didn't he ask this question or that question? It's amazing, but it's also brutal at times. Someone forwarded a particular exchange to me. They were talking about one of the first shows I hosted. Someone wrote something nice about me on this site, and then someone else chimed in and wrote that George Knapp is an asshat. An asshat. I mean, I was crushed. Who wants to be known as an asshat? Geez, that's pretty low, I think. It's a kind of label that could follow a person forever. And then it occurred to me, I don't know what an asshat is. What does that mean? Is someone suggesting my ass is shaped like a hat? And if so, what kind of hat? A bowler, a derby, one of those Buckingham Palace, Marge Simpson hairdo kind of hats? Or they're saying my head is shaped like buttocks. I mean, seriously, I don't know what an ass hat is, but it doesn't sound like a compliment. I could be wrong. And maybe it's a term of respect among certain indigenous societies. You know, make way, kneel down. Here comes the exalted ass hat. I can handle that. I've been called worse, I think, daily, in fact. What's stuck in my head about the coast-to-coast discussion groups is the degree of commitment that many of the listeners have to the show. It's encouraging, yet scary at the same time. You got to be on your toes because someone will call you on it if you're not. I get a lot of emails each time I host, and I can only imagine what George and Art get. It must be overwhelming. I try to answer every one of them, even if it's just a quick thank you to write back. You know, most of them are pretty positive notes from regular listeners. A few are pretty harsh. More than a few are just weird. I mean, getting emails from a guy who thinks his house is some kind of a giant transmitter. It's sending out radio and TV signals to unknown operatives. And somehow these mystery people are able to control things inside his house, like the light switches. I got an email last week from a lady who says she's been living with an alien for the last 30 years. I got a PR release from Robert Burleson in Tennessee to let me know that the Knoxville Guitar Society now has a website. Thanks for the tip, Robert. Interesting note from Dr. Brooks Agnew, who's planning a North Pole Inner Earth expedition. Dr. Agnew says it's his mission to, quote, unite the clans of Inner Earth enthusiasts. And he wrote to ask if I know anyone willing to invest $3.5 million in this venture to travel deep inside the planet. I mean, man, I wish. Take a little jaunt to the inner Earth? Sign me up. But I find myself a little bit short when it comes to the $3.5 million. Anyone out there in the audience with millions to spare might want to contact the Phoenix Science Foundation in Williamsburg, Kentucky. The doctor is waiting to hear from you, and you let me know how that trip goes. About half of the emails I get have something to do with male anatomy and what to do with it. Why settle for what you have, the one email says. She'll beg for more, another one bragged. Viagra, Cialis, implants, tonics. Local chicks who need extra lovin' on the side was the slug for one email. Choose your size, or I'm the woman you're looking for, wrote a lady nicknamed KGB Bride. Hello, baby, be the playboy you've always wanted to be. Here's what I'm wondering. Is it something I said? Am I putting out this vibe that inspires these kind of messages? Are my ex-girlfriends out there telling stories about me? Because after getting so many of these with the same basic message, it sure seems like someone's putting out the word that I'm just not cutting the mustard. That said, I like getting your emails. I'll answer all of them, though it's going to take me a while. I'd much rather get emails than phone calls to my work phone, which a lot of you have been doing. That job, the TV job, it's separate from this thing. So please cut me some slack on that. I can't sit on the phone at work and talk long distance about UFOs, much as I would like to. All right, some news items to talk about, and then we'll take a short break. You know, the last time I was here was the weekend of O.J. Simpson, who was busted in Las Vegas. And this time it's David Copperfield. I don't know if you saw this story where you live, but FBI agents raided a Las Vegas warehouse where Copperfield stores a lot of the stuff he uses in his act, his magic act. One source told us the agent seized $2 million in cash, which is strange since they reportedly are investigating a rape allegation made by a Seattle woman. The act supposedly took place in the Bahamas. Why the FBI is investigating a sexual assault case from another country is not at all clear. Copperfield's lawyer denies any sexual assault took place. What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. Not anymore, anyway. I received an email from Colonel John Alexander, who's been on this program several times over the years, including with me. He saw the story about Copperfield on television in Rwanda. That's where Colonel Alexander's traveling. Drives home the point that the world just isn't as big as it used to be. What happens in Vegas can be in Rwanda by tomorrow. We're going to take a short break and come back and talk about some UFOs, and we'll be joined momentarily or a couple of minutes from now by the one and only John Lear. Stay with us on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back. This is Coast to Coast AM. I'm your guest host, George Knapp. We're talking about some things related to news here out of Las Vegas. In a couple of minutes, I'll be joined by John Lear, talk about UFOs and conspiracy. And then later in this program, we'll be joined by author Tim Good from London. Talking about what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. We got an interesting bunch of folks here this weekend in town. IRVA, that's IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association. They've been in Las Vegas all weekend for their annual convention. Dr. Jacques Vallée, who was on Coast to Coast